Welcome back. Today we're doing something a little different. We're not talking factory guns or glossy accessories. We're digging into the kind of jury-rigged, make-do weapons that pop up behind razor wire. The stuff people cobble together when tools, time, and trouble collide. I'll be blunt. This is a look at ingenuity under extreme circumstances, not a how-to. Some of these items are shocking, some are downright creative, and all of them are dangerous. I won't walk you through construction, but I will break down what they are, why they matter, and what lessons they teach about control, detection, and risk. Expect zip guns, converted tools, and a few truly inventive combo pieces. I shuffled the order to give you fresh context and a different angle than the usual rundowns. We've also swapped in a couple of entries that fit the theme better while keeping names accurate and verifiable. Number 8. PVC Pipe Zip Gun. These are the little ghosts of the contraband world. Deceptively simple, unexpectedly dangerous. A PVC pipe zip gun is exactly what it sounds like. A crude, single-shot firearm built around a short length of pipe. You'll hear folks call them zip guns because they're handmade and often single-use. Not factory firearms, but they can still put a hole in somebody if they're loaded. Why they show up in lockups is obvious. Pipe, tape, and a few smuggled parts are low profile and easy to hide. That makes them attractive to someone trying to move a weapon past a search. But here's the key point from a range guy perspective. They're wildly unpredictable. They don't have proper barrels, proper chambers, or proper safety systems. When you pull the trigger on one of these, you're trusting luck more than engineering. That equals massive risk of the device failing, backfiring, or fragmenting, which endangers everyone nearby, not just the intended target. From a corrections and detection angle, these show common patterns. They tend to be short, blunt, and easy to conceal in clothing or inside hollowed items. Detection efforts focus on profiling odd densities, metal traces, and routine cell searches. For policy people, the lesson is also obvious. Deny access to easy building materials, increase random inspections, and invest in good X-ray and canine screening where budgets allow. Historically, the PVC zip gun is less glamorous than the homemade shotgun, but it's effective enough to appear in reports worldwide. Legally, possession is serious. In many jurisdictions, it's treated the same as any unregistered firearm, with long criminal consequences. These are proof that ordinary materials can become lethal, but they're unreliable and often self-defeating for the user. They belong in case studies and cautionary briefings, not in anyone's toolbox. Number 7. Chicken Wire Glass Shiv. This one reads like sad poetry. Safety glass meant to stop a bigger problem ends up as a weapon in the wrong hands. Chicken wire glass is the laminated, mesh-reinforced stuff you see in industrial windows and some institutional settings. Break it, and the wire holds the pieces together, which is exactly why inmates sometimes repurpose shards into cutting tools. From a shooter's perspective, it's a reminder that sharpness and rigidity aren't the only metrics for danger. Those wired shards don't behave like a clean steel edge. They tear and grab, and they can do ugly soft tissue work while also shedding tiny, unpredictable fragments. That makes them both effective in the moment and hazardous to the user. Contamination, deep cuts, and unpredictable break patterns are real hazards. For corrections and facility planners, the takeaway is uncomfortable but clear. Safety upgrades can create new vectors for abuse. Chicken wire glass reduces the chance of large, dangerous projectiles during breakage, but in enclosed spaces, it can produce usable fragments. Modern responses favor shatterproof polycarbonate and other glazing that reduces the chance of weaponizable fragments, plus routine inspections of windows and fixtures for damage or tampering. Legally and ethically, this item underscores a pattern we'll see across the list. Everyday materials become threats when combined with motive and time. The glass itself is innocent. The risk comes from context. That's why training, detection, and material choices matter. Keep in mind, the presence of such shards is as much a medical and safety hazard as it is a security problem. Number 6. 22 Knuckle Duster Zip Gun. Now we're stepping into the realm of pure outlaw engineering. The .22 caliber knuckle duster zip gun isn't just improvised, it's ambitious. Picture a set of brass knuckles fused with a single-shot .22 barrel, small enough to disappear in a closed fist. It's the kind of weapon that mixes intimidation with function, blunt force and ballistic in one ugly package. These things have turned up in evidence lockers from Europe to the States, usually pieced together from scrap tubing, cast metal, and stubborn creativity. In prison, the idea alone is enough to make security nervous. Not because they're common, but because if one exists, it proves the system missed something. From a gun guy's standpoint, you can respect the resourcefulness without glorifying it. The Knuckle Duster zip gun represents how far people will push to make something work under absolute restriction. But it's also a reminder that firearms are precise machines for a reason. There's no headspace tolerance, no proper lockup, no metallurgy to handle pressure. You're playing Russian roulette with every pull. What fascinates weapons historians is how this hybrid echoes real-world curiosities. Pen guns, glove pistols, even the FP-45 Liberator from World War II. Crude weapons built for one or two desperate shots. Inmates just reinvented the same logic, using whatever scraps they could find. At the end of the day, this is the kind of contraption that proves creativity doesn't die behind bars. It mutates. But it's also a perfect illustration of why prison weapon detection and routine searches matter. One missed piece of pipe, one spring, one fragment of brass. That's all it takes. Number 5. Penstyle zip gun. Small, sneaky, and built to disappear. That's the pen gun in a nutshell. These aren't novelty toys. They're the kind of single-shot devices that look like an ordinary writing implement until someone decides they aren't. Because of the profile, they're attractive for smuggling and concealment. That's the whole point. Listen, from a practical standpoint, there's nothing elegant about them. They're single-use in many cases and wildly unreliable. But that unreliability is part of what makes them dangerous. A misfire that blows back toward the user is not a theoretical risk, it's a real one. The trade-off for concealability is structural weakness. In other words, they can work, and when they do, the results are serious. When they don't, the consequences are usually catastrophic for the person holding it. Historically, pen guns show up in contraband reports and court cases more than in shootouts. They're favored when the goal is surprise or intimidation rather than a prolonged firefight. That makes them a particular headache for corrections officers and anyone running search protocols. Detection depends on keen search practices and technology that can profile odd densities or shapes that don't belong in paperwork or personal items. From a policy and safety angle, pen guns underscore a few clear lessons: stricter control of mail and packages, tighter screening of incoming goods, and education for staff about how innocuous items can be weaponized. And for the rest of us, it's a reminder that everyday objects can be repurposed for harm. So vigilance matters. Number 4. .22 caliber staple gun. This one reads like somebody opened an office supply store and then decided to stage a jailbreak. A staple gun is a simple tool, meant to drive metal staples into wood or fabric. But with enough imagination, some inmates have repurposed the firing mechanism to send a small projectile downrange. That's what puts the converted .22 staple gun on lists like this. It's an everyday object turned into a single-shot threat. From an on-the-range perspective, the first thing you notice is how badly these devices violate everything we teach about safe firearm design. There's no chamber support, no controlled barrel, no proper lockup, just a crude mechanism doing a job it was never engineered to do. That makes them both dangerous to anyone nearby and wildly inconsistent when it comes to performance. They can work. They can also fail catastrophically, sending fragments where nobody wants them. Operationally, the converted staple gun is more of a surprise device than a sustained weapon. It's useful when the goal is shock or intimidation, not a firefight. That's why it's a recurring problem for corrections staff. It gets overlooked because it looks like a mundane tool, but its potential for harm is real. What matters for facility managers and policy folks is prevention. Limit access to commercial fastening tools, inspect workshop areas, and treat any altered tools as immediate evidence. Medical teams also need to be ready. Wounds from low velocity, improvised projectiles can be weird, contaminated, and medically complex. Historically, this item sits alongside other office supply gone wrong weapons, and it's a reminder that everyday objects can outgrow their original purpose when motive and time mix. For viewers, respect the ingenuity, but don't romanticize it. These are dangerous contraptions with legal and human consequences. Number 3. Double-barreled pistol. This one reads like a metal shop fever dream. 2 barrels, 1 intent. The double-barreled pistol is classic jury rig engineering. Inmates with access to basic tooling and time can fashion a short, 2-shot device that trades reliability for concealability and surprise. It's crude, but that's not the point. The point is an extra chance to fire when every second counts. From a practical shooter's view, it's fascinating and terrifying at the same time. 2 barrels stacked or side by side give you a redundancy the single-shot zip gun lacks, but they don't solve the core problem. Improvised guns lack proper chambers, proper metallurgy, and consistent ignition. That means every pull risks a catastrophic failure, and the user is just as exposed as the target. Historically, examples show up in prison reports and outside case files. Not common, but memorable. Inmates who made these often relied on lathe work, TIG or braze joints, and scavenged springs. Some used unconventional loads, steel shot, makeshift cartridges, or even incendiary mixtures, which escalate the hazard and the legal exposure. If it's found, prosecutors treat it like any unregistered dangerous firearm. Courts and corrections don't care how it was made. For corrections and risk managers, the double-barreled pistol highlights a few patterns to watch: access to machining tools, suspicious metal stock movement, and odd lathe marks on improvised fittings. Mitigation means tighter controls in workshop programs, clear audit trails for metal and machine time, and training staff to spot early fabrication signs. Bottom line, it's a blunt reminder that when you give someone tools and time, creativity will show up, sometimes in forms that are crude but lethal. These contraptions are a threat to inmates, staff, and the maker alike, and they underline why detection, prevention, and strict facility controls are non-negotiable. Number 2. 22 caliber cap gun, modified cap gun, smuggled zip gun. This one's equal parts nostalgia and nightmare. A cap gun was designed to make kids feel like cowboys. A pop, a puff of smoke, harmless fun. In the wrong hands and with the wrong upgrades, a toy can cross a line into real danger. That's what happened with some of the cap gun conversions you see in the records. Small, easily concealed devices that somebody tried to turn into something that could fire a projectile. From a practical viewpoint, these conversions are built around concealment and surprise, rather than durability. They're usually single-shot, low power, and highly unreliable. And that unreliability is what makes them especially hazardous. A misfire can maim the user as easily as it can fail to stop a threat. So, while the concept is ingenious in a grim way, it's far from effective compared to proper firearms, but it can still do serious harm in a confined space. For corrections and security professionals, cap gun conversions are a reminder to take innocuous items seriously. They often arrive through smuggling routes because a toy looks harmless on a package or in a care package. Detection relies on vigilant screening, good inventory control for incoming items, and training staff to spot altered seams, added weight, or tape and adhesive that mask modifications. Medically and legally, wounds from these devices can be weird, contaminated, low velocity, and irregular trajectories that complicate treatment. Legally, possession or attempted modification is treated harshly. Most jurisdictions don't look kindly on turning a toy into a weapon. Number 1. 12-gauge Slamfire shotgun club. This closes the list on a note nobody wants to test. The 12-gauge Slamfire shotgun club is the kind of ugly creativity that combines two threats into one: a blunt instrument you can swing, and a sudden, short-range ballistic punch when the maker pulls a trigger. In cramped spaces and chaotic moments, that element of surprise is the whole point, and why this device shows up in the worst of the case files. From a firearms perspective, it's a disaster wrapped in cleverness. Shotguns are designed to contain heavy pressures, control the shot column, and manage recoil. A club-converted device does none of that. There's no engineered chamber, no rated barrel, no proper lockup. That makes the device wildly unpredictable. When it functions, the effect is devastating. When it fails, the injury often ends up on the operator or innocent bystanders. Either outcome is dangerous and ugly. Operationally, these hybrid pieces are notable for where they come from: workshops, scavenged maintenance gear, or smuggled components combined with time and know-how. Their real utility to someone inside a facility is the surprise factor. A harmless-looking stick that can suddenly fire makes people hesitate, and hesitation is what an attacker counts on. That same surprise, though, multiplies the risk for everyone in the room and for medical staff later on. Prevention and response are blunt instruments, too. For administrators, limit access to dense timbers and metal stock, rigorously audit tool inventories, and watch for odd repairs or new hardware on otherwise mundane items. For security teams, treat unexpected implements as potential threats and prioritize fast medical triage planning. Wounds from these combos combine blunt trauma with contaminated ballistic injury, which complicates treatment. And legally, these devices are treated as firearms or aggravated weapons in most jurisdictions. Manufacture or possession inside a facility brings serious criminal and institutional penalties. The 12-gauge Slamfire shotgun club is a grim reminder that ingenuity without ethics becomes a public safety hazard. It's inventive in the worst way, effective for a moment, catastrophic in consequence. Thanks for sticking with me through a rough ride. These contraptions aren't curiosities to admire. They're cautionary tales. If anything here bothered you, good. That's the right reaction. Talk about what you think in the comments. Questions, corrections, or other examples you've seen. I'll read the best ones and maybe cover them next. Make sure you like, subscribe, and drop a comment down below. Stay sharp.